not to raise problems, but to contextualize what the challenge is. Let me give you some snap numbers on what the challenge is in Pakistan. This is our home. This is the home I'm very, very proud of. 47 million Pakistanis living on less than $1 a day. The numbers are slightly old, but the proportions are still the same. 1 in every 3 Pakistani is living on less than $1 a day. Right. This is just to set what the challenge is. 17 million Pakistanis without access to safe drinking water. What does that mean? 1 in every 10. Safe drinking water means essentially water you can look through. You're not talking WHO standards. That's what you're talking about. Water you can look through. 55 million Pakistanis without sanitation. 4 out of every 10. 60 million Pakistanis without access to safe health. 45%. 4 out of 10 Pakistani children suffer from malnutrition. Half of all adults and 3/4 of all adult women illiterate. Right? Why am I doing this? Not to depress you. I want to inspire you, not to depress you, but to say that's the target. The good thing about the target is meetable. The target is easily achievable. But insecurity is where we need to start, and we need to look at every face of insecurity, because that is what development is. And insecurity, as I said, comes from dignity. Now, I want to link about this thing, and maybe my HDF friends will be surprised that HDF is a security organization. What Todd is doing is a security work. And what we're talking about here is human security, which is a close cousin of human development. So what is human development? I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Mahbubul Haq when he founded this. I'm going to sound professorial, but just for a minute. So what is development? And I do this with my students, most of whom, of course, are not Pakistanis. But the best meaning of development to me is what the answer is given when you ask someone, "Kya haal hai?" How are you? Kya haal hai? When you ask someone, "Kya haal hai?" How are you? The answer to that is what development is. That's all it is. You can write all the equations, you can write all the books you want. But when I ask you, "Kya haal hai?" you don't tell me your GDP. You tell me, "I lost my job," hopefully not. You tell me, "I have a headache. My daughter is doing well in school. I read a good book. I heard a great song." That's what development is. And that's the idea of human development. Human development is health, wealth, knowledge. Because that's what people say when you ask them, "How are you?" They don't tell you GDP. They don't tell you development statistics. So that's where the idea of human development comes from. And if you look at the program, that's really the genesis of what HDF does. Now, how is Pakistan doing on this index called HDI, which is what Dr. Mahbubul Haq created, by which countries are ranked on HDI. So a little math test, not as much as Dr. Saab's earlier. But Pakistan, there's a list of 182 countries. Pakistan ranks 141 on the Human Development Index. Right? Human Development Index is the average of health, wealth, knowledge. 3 numbers. So just bear with me on the math. 141st on a list of 182. By comparison, India is slightly better, so a lower number is better. 134th, Bangladesh is 146th, Sri Lanka is 102. By, again, comparison, over the years, Pakistan has done well, but that's what you should expect. That other countries have also done well, so that's not a normed thing. Here is the interesting thing. There's an HDI score. The score is always between 0 and 1. 0 is the absolute worst. 1 is the best. I'm sorry for the math, but bear with me. There's a point. Pakistan's score is 0.57. Okay, so I've given this presentation to the current government. I've given it to the previous government. They all nod at the right point. But here is the reason I'm doing this. So Pakistan's score is 0.57. What do you want to do to this score if you want development in Pakistan? You want this number to be bigger. The number is achieved by the average of 3 other numbers, which is the health score, which is 0.68, the wealth score, which is 0.53, and the knowledge score, meaning education, which is 0.49. Simple math. Which number is pulling us down? If you were the president of Pakistan and you wanted to raise that number, i.e. raise development, how would you do it? The one lever of change is education. Right? So all that convoluted number mongering to say that if you really want to shift the country, both the concept and simple analysis is telling you that the one lever which works better than all others is education. The good news is you can change education much faster than you can change either health or wealth. at a national scale. So we have both the opportunity and the ability to do this, and this is why education is important. Education is also important because here is our amazing thing. What is Pakistan's biggest export? Extremely educated people. If you go to any college, any university in Pakistan, and ask people who are seeing all these other really bright Pakistanis coming, if they were not reading newspapers, they would think that this country, everyone, is super bright. Because all across the world now, not just all across the US, we are exporting extremely bright students. And one is very, very proud of that. But again, you see the same dilemma. Individual excellence, failure to convert it into collective success. And that is where the previous talk that was already given comes in. Let me move on to the second set of stories, which is about women. Women, I think, are the key to all of our futures. Again, we talk about empowerment. Empowerment, again, comes from security. It comes from being secure in the knowledge that you can do what you want to do. And security comes from opportunity. That I have the ability to do that which I can do and which I want to do. That you would be paid for if you were not to do it yourself. Right? So if you mow your lawn, that's economic work because you have the alternative of hiring someone. So on average, the Pakistani woman works 10 to 12 hours a day of economic work. The Pakistani male species, by comparison, works on average 2 to 4 hours less. Because, of course, we have to play cricket. Now, we haven't been playing that very well. But that's where it is. This is not about women and men. This is about dignifying women's work, because the problem is that women are taught to think of themselves as not working. And we do not respect the work that they do. We do not count it in national statistics. And that's the point that I want to get to. Where does HDF come into all of this? HDF comes onto all of this because what HDF does is it starts dignifying women's work. It starts giving women dignity by giving them security. How do they do that? How do they do that? I realized that on your tables, one of the stories, the book about HDF stories, on one of the ones, I think volume 1, on page 12, there's the story of Rukhsana. I hadn't seen that before. I knew the story of Rukhsana from having worked with HDF. Here is the story of Rukhsana. The story of Rukhsana is that, and this is one of the success stories from HDF. She was born in a village near Rahim Yar Khan. She becomes the first girl in the village to pass primary school. Her family, actually, again, the myth that families don't want women to study is more of a myth than a reality. It's very often also opportunity. Her family is, in fact, so interested in having her study, they move to Rahim Yar Khan from the village to support her education. She graduates from college. This is what HDF success is. Right? Not that one girl was taught. That's not the success. That's the trigger. The success is she moves to college. She moves to college, she becomes the volunteer secretary of HDF's development organization, starts teaching HDF adult education centers. Right? Now the multiplier is coming. She teaches 4 of her students pass the primary exam. 2 of her students go off to college. 1 becomes a teacher at an HDF school. The investment was in 1 woman. The multiplier is in 4 of those students, 2 of the college students, 1 who becomes a teacher. That's where the multiplication of whatever your $10, $20, $100, $1,000 is. That's how it's being multiplied. Rukhsana completes her master's, goes on to work with UNICEF. Rukhsana comes back in 2007 as the village coordinator for Rahim Yar Khan for HDF. And what I'm trying to do is tracking the success and saying that the success is really coming in the multiplication. And so when you give the dollar, the question is not that I taught or helped teach 1 girl. The success is that because of that 1 girl, all of these things happen. That's where the multiplication is. I won't go through the details, but the multiplication is seen as in how HDF people are able to mobilize other money, how HDF people are getting elected into local government, how they are changing the face of what is happening in their